Yeah, I realize a lot of you have never actually dealt with a porcupine or understand how this works. But these quills, I just finished pulling more out of the dogs. And this will go on for a while because there's some of them that have broken off inside their mouths that are now working out through their lips and gums and stuff, It's an ongoing project because there was hundreds of them in each dog. But the quills are actually made of the same thing as like a fingernail or the quill on a bird's feather. They're hollow, but then the end, this dark part, is really sharp. And it's got like overlapping scales. So it goes in easy, comes out hard. And on the base, it's fine, it's almost like a hair, but stiffer. And when an animal is threatened, they tighten their hide up and these poke straight out, and they're covered with these things, but particularly on their tail. And they tend to slap with their tail. So, they can really put a lot of them in a hurry. But they are hollow, and if you cut the end, like on this one, it does help somewhat for pulling them out. Because otherwise, without the end cut, it makes them, when you crush them, it makes them even tighter. But they do, like that end, it's stiff like a needle, and it goes in, and it does not want to come out. A lot of times, here I got a thick enough hide on my thumb, I'll show you. It'll go in, and then if they break off, the problem is you can't pull them back out. So if this breaks off, the only way to deal with them, you can't get it back out this way. They go tough anyway. You have to wait and pull it from this way, and then they pull relatively easy. But they are a real bugger. But the dogs are doing better. They are eating and drinking now, which was really almost impossible for them before. I mean, it's tough on animals in the wild, especially if they, tangle with one, like little coyotes or something. If they tangle with a porcupine, they can actually starve to death, because it's tough eating with them. And they don't, because like the one dog, he had a lot of them on the roof of his mouth and a lot of them on his tongue. Well, both of them did, but the one was much worse than the other. But I've got them in pretty good shape now, but they're very tender, and there's still a lot of them, the ones that have broken off, that are working out through their muzzle. I have to kind of feel over their muzzle, but they're getting a little leery of me because every time I come out here, I throw them on the ground and work them over again. But it's got to be done, I know the one yesterday that was the worst one, him I actually had a hog tie, throw him on the ground, I sat on top of him, then I took a stick and a little branch and put it crossways in his mouth to hold his mouth open. And I haven't got bit yet, I got clawed a few times. But they, like the roof of their mouth, they come out hard, but you got to get them out of there because they ain't coming out. Because they only work one way and they can't go all the way through. The ones in like in their lips and stuff, they work from the inside, they'll come out. That's why I pulled quite a few out today from the one dog that had worked their way through. But very unpleasant. But I don't begrudge it. The porcupine, he's not doing anything. They just bumble around. They're a easygoing animal. They can afford to be because they've got a hell of a defense mechanism. But if things leave them alone, they don't cause any trouble. And they're interesting. It's kind of funny. I know a lot of people around here actually wouldn't believe that there are even porcupines because you don't see them. They don't travel around a lot. And they tend to, when they're moving, they move slow, and then they are usually covered with leaves and stuff, and if they see anybody coming, they just stop, and they'll hold still. But a lot of times, the only way you'll notice them is the eyeballs moving. And I rode a horse right past one, like 3 feet away from one time, and I didn't realize it till I was right next to him, and I seen them eyeballs following. And if that horse would have just got a little bit closer, he'd have got a swat with the tail, and then there'd been problems. But they're an interesting animal. I found where this one had been eating, but I didn't find a porcupine. And I looked in the trees, but they are very hard to find. They're very elusive. I wasn't going to do anything with him. I just want to know where he's at, because I have to watch the other dogs, and when I let them out, I don't want them to get involved. I think these two have learned their lesson. I don't think they'll do that again in a hurry, though. Husky's going to be vengeful, and they might think, by God, they'll get him this time. And it'll take them a while to grow all these quills back, because he lost hundreds of them, but they've got, I think, like 30,000 of them, so I think they're in good shape yet, but they're a bugger. But it'll be a couple more days before I'm really through with this operation. And even then, they'll probably turn up, because they work through. And them dogs are very tender. But like I said, they're coming around.